It's the 15th of January, 2024. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We got a banger show for you tonight. You can call in at these live streams at 709-589-4406. It takes me a moment to get everything moving. Here we go. Rock and roll, baby. So we're going to cover freedom of information. There's a link in the description to the emails that we're going to cover tonight. It was 304 pages, I think. I read everything. That'll give you a headache, when you can't speed read through this kind of stuff, because you'll be surprised what you'll miss. You'll miss the important stuff is what ends up happening. We're going to have to go into this screen, to stealth screen. And at the top of it, let me give you some kind of insight to what you're looking at here. I forgot to put it's a PDF file in the description. Apologize to anybody, because some people don't like PDF files. You can't blame them. So you'll notice up here, page 25, and there's 304 pages, and that's the file number, blah, 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 blah. I got a link in the description for you. And making sure I got everything going good here. It looks good. If you think nuclear is a scumbag, give me a thumbs up. We got a poll, big shot poll for everybody tonight. Has Fukushima's endless radioactive fallout poisoned all the species, everything on this planet, and every human on the entire planet? Yeah, 10 people were absolutely right. And I'll get back on the right screen here. The Geiger counter, the Giggity counter is live, and here we go. So Jaczko was the head of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission at that time, right? And he thought C-SPAN aired the broadcast where Congress, Bill Bouchard was there. Originally, Jaczko was late getting there. So Bill Bouchard, a lot of these questions were answered by Bill Bouchard, but it was actually Jaczko who was quoted in the transcripts, which wasn't correct. But it was correct for some of this, and this part here is correct. This will come up again in a little tiny bit. An email was circulating discussing high levels of radiation, and Jaczko says he's not familiar with that email because there was 1,000 of them, I bet. But there have been times when readings were elevated. So he has to be asked again, what levels? So, it's interesting he used the word elevated, because when they asked him to clarify it, he said, we see lethal levels. That's quite a departure from the elevated narrative that he had in the previous sentence, isn't it? You'll see a lot of that kind of stuff. They're completely untrustworthy. The video last night was 1 hour 57 minutes, 55 seconds. Sorry, I got that backwards. 1 hour 57 minutes, 55 seconds. At 11 hours, it's still 1 hour 57, 55. But at 12 hours, that's when my comments from the live stream will show back up. But all live streams, the comments will show up right away, except for my site. And my videos will get longer. And typically 6 seconds is the current version. So you have 55, add 6 seconds onto it, and you got 158. And so sure enough, there it is again. Always 6 seconds. So we believe they're putting software into the video to track you at Google itself. And so I suggest you watch the videos when they're live or before they're 12 hours old. And I do post quite a lot of them up at my alternative channel on BitChute. YouTube won't let me have an alternative channel. I had bought a burner phone, so to speak, just to start up a YouTube account. And Google canceled my account immediately. 2 different SIM cards, both of them were canceled. My YouTube accounts, my backup channels. So the backup channels now are at BitChute. And so what I'm doing is I'm recording this on the gear here. And then I'll render it, because these are 100 gigabyte files. I'll render it. And then tomorrow, generally, I'll post it. Not always the case, unfortunately. I can't keep up with it. I have a lot of work that I have to do every day too, right? We have received several requests through the RSLO regarding the screening of planes, passengers, the baggage, landing in the United States from Japan. We have, and so this is, you can see up there, that's page 10. The Bill Bouchard stuff I was talking about, the Jaczko rather, was page 25. I just wanted to put that there so you can see there was lethal levels acknowledged by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission before we even started the show. But here we are back at the beginning, March the 16th. Most of this is March the 6th, if not all of it. Most of it is March the 16th, 17th, and just a little tiny bit was March the 18th. So March the 16th to March the 17th. And by March the 16th, 4 reactors had detonated. So that's reactor 3 and reactor 4 behind me. That'll give you some concept of what we're talking about. The ELP system in 2013, they had just started to construct it, so there was no filtration whatsoever. There was 865,000 extra cancers in the first year. And the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, this is the picture they would have seen on March the 15th. So when they say they weren't aware of this or they weren't aware of that, remember, they're very dishonest. And that the media came out and pretended that they were at the fuel pool. So the cover story, you'll notice, showed up right away. Now, we've done research expeditions for 6 years, 4 to 5 months a year on the ocean without coming home. Very difficult times, and the species were missing, and this is all documented. You find that up in my playlist. We do have die-off videos from last year, or stories from last year we still haven't covered. I'll try to remember to do it tomorrow night. I'm very busy though in the daytime. We're getting ready to go out and do research this winter, and there's a lot going on. I'll fill you in on some of what I've done the day later. Here we go. Let's get back on the story. I'm not young anymore. It's very difficult. Very difficult for me to do the stuff I'm doing. Here we go. So they're worried about planes departing from Japan are contaminated. Does the Nuclear Regulatory Commission have any take on whether planes departing from Japan should be checked for radiation contamination? And you'll see the date of those and the people that sent it, etc., right? I'm not going to try to cover. I will cover some of the smaller details like that, but that'll be too time-consuming to do it constantly. But it will be on the screen for you. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission does not have a take on this concern of airplanes and baggage and passengers being irradiated, which, because they should, because the plumes covered the whole planet right away. The reactor is actually detonated. And the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is aware of all that. Right on that at that time, they knew that the planes were radioactive. They knew the luggage was radioactive. They knew the passengers were radioactive. That's not up for debate. Does not take a take on the concern, as we are not the agency responsible for deciding. So the non-regulatory commission is not responsible for checking for radioactive planes and passengers and victims. See, Congress doesn't have the authority, or the Parliament, say in Canada and Great Britain and Australia, don't have the authority to make it illegal to poison you with radiation. Only the Nuclear Regulatory Commission does. And so, who is responsible? Because they say they're not responsible. Well, who the fuck is then? Right? And somebody should grab them by the throat and ask them that question. Because the world deserves answers instead of straw men. Are all nuclear power plants designed to withstand a plane crash? The radiation emission rates in Japan are alarming. And just to give you context, each of the reactors' buildings, the fuel pools included, was a total of around 3,450 spent fuel assemblies. It's around 6 million pounds. But you're being very generous to downplay it that much. Keep going here. We'll get through it. The link is not satisfactory either, since the radiation that is listed is not given per hour, when the actual hourly rate is 300 times more. I mean, this is a model. Up there is 36 hours. Up here is 180 hours. And this is 19.5 days, 468 hours. These models are slow compared to the actual facts. So when the actual hourly rate is 300 times more than natural radiation exposures per year. So when you conflate natural with anthropogenic man-made, they're completely different. You can't conflate them. So it's unbelievably dishonest, right, to conflate these together, to marry these together. So natural radiation, you can't make a dirty bomb or a nuclear reactor out of it. You can walk past a truckload of bananas, can't possibly hurt you. You can, like they have big open fields of potassium, right? And you can sleep in that for the rest of your life, it can't hurt you. Like mountains of potassium. But if you got a little pellet of used fuel, that'll kill you. That'll murder you and a million people that try to hang around it. Like over thousands of years. Everybody that stands alongside will eventually die from that. Once it goes through a chain reaction, it's 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. So when you think of an atom, and those numbers still don't do it justice, right? Japan says the area 150 kilometers from Fukushima is as radioactive as the areas close to the meltdowns. High levels of radioactivity found extensively throughout the entire country, not just Fukushima, but even Tokyo was just as radioactive as it was close to the nuclear disease factory. So it is irresponsible to look the other way, and I just assume the worst case scenario will never happen, since with this technology, we cannot contain that worst case scenario. It is irresponsible to look the other way and just assume the worst case scenario will never happen. So, because they never dreamt, allegedly, that all the reactors could melt down, that all the fuel pools could detonate. Now, they won't acknowledge the fuel pools have detonated. But you can use your imagination. That's Medusa, reactor 3, plutonium mixed oxide reactor. When you're looking at that clearly, that is catastrophic stuff. So March 16, 2011. Most of this correspondence, emails, March 16, March 17. I mean, some fascinating stuff coming up. All of this, I think, is fascinating. We understand your concerns, like March 16th. Waxman, what's the significance of a report of a crack in the containment? So, this is March the 16th, so reactor 3 blew up on March the 16th. That's not a crack in the containment. It ejected the reactor core and the fuel pools out of the buildings. And then they seen that picture, same as me and you. So when you see that picture, there's no one out there in the Nuclear Regulatory Commission going like, there could be a crack in the containment, George. or Jaczko? No, they're like the reactor cores are gone, the fuel pools are gone. This is way past the worst case scenario they ever conceived. It's way past it. I mean, they built it in an earthquake zone, for goodness sakes. The crack I was referring to is the spent fuel pool in one of the other units, meaning a possibility of water draining, which may lead to the difficulty maintaining water levels. That's page 23. So reactor 1 and reactor 3 clearly lost their fuel pools immediately. The entire inventories, which is decades of reactor cores. So you're looking at around 16 reactor cores going poof. And I mean, the poof means plumes that covers the entire planet. That model is 25 days, 26 days. Let's not forget they picked up 30 million one-ton bags. What is the best case and worst case for Japan? So this is a Congress allegedly grilling Jaczko. What is the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario for Japan, there is no best case because the reactor is detonated. All the food, all the water, all the land, all the roads, all the schools, everything is contaminated. There's nothing that's not contaminated. And I can go through all the documentation, quantify that. It's not an assertion, it's a fact. It's not a conjecture, it's not an opinion, it's a fact. And we got the documentation that is unassailable. What is the best case and worst case for Japan? Well, let's ask the question for Taiwan. Nuclear fallout will engulf Taiwan. People should stay home and immediately take off their clothes and cleanse the nuclear contaminants. Well, you throw it away, right? Your clothing, first off. You don't bring it in your house. You leave Taiwan then whenever you can, right? That's the right thing to do there. South Korea closed all their schools, right, at the same time. Jaczko, certainly efforts to continue to provide cooling for the reactors and spent fuel pools. Now, Jaczko knew the fuel pools were gone. He's seen that picture. He's seen those videos. He knew they were gone. You can't provide cooling. Like, once one of them detonates, you're putting fuel pool reactor cores all over the site. There's no one can go in there and do something. It's over, right? It's just sit back and cry. That's all you can do. What they done was just cover it up. He didn't want to speculate what could happen. Now, this is what Bill Bouchard was saying over and over and over. Didn't want to speculate because they were waiting for Jaczko to show up. So a lot of these narratives could be contributed to Bill Bouchard, not Jaczko. Public Affairs Assistance. Wednesday, still March the 16th. Both reactors have recently been cited by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Failure to have proper backup power in California. So you'll also see there was a lot of speculations about how safe, because the American reactors, there's 70 of them are identical. Right to the paint scheme, they're exactly identical. With all the fuel pools at the top of the building. This is the stupidest, literally the nightmarish, the most idiotic place to put a fuel pool is the top of a reactor. You have a problem, you can't get to the fuel pool. You can't get to the fuel pool, you can't solve any more problems. And it's going to be a trillion times worse. And I do mean the word trillion too, right? Trillions, actually. The Non-Regulatory Commission / Nuclear Regulatory Commission, which are clearly a non-regulatory commission, the Rubber Stamp Commission, ruled there wouldn't be bizarre concentrations of events, but we just witnessed that in Japan. Jaczko says he'll revisit that report. Now, Jaczko was aware the reactors blew up. He would have been the first one to see that footage. He would have been the first one to see these pictures. He would have been looking at everything in live on satellites. And he should be arrested for genocide because he stopped the country from being able to come up with any solutions for themselves. Everybody should have been sheltered indoors in the entire North America continent, particularly Canada, particularly United States, and Mexico. McKinley said, do you have R&D money for alternate uses for spent fuel rods? Jaczko says, we have resources for safety and security of the spent fuel rods, a small amount for reusing the spent fuel. For alternate uses. So here they were talking about making more mixed oxide fuel right away. Going to use that as a catalyst to change the law, which is illegal at that time, to make plutonium mixed oxide fuel, and use this nightmare as a catalyst to do something even more eviler. I mean, they used fuel, the fuel was turned into plutonium mixed oxide, and look at the difference in the detonations of that one and this one, reactor 1 and reactor 3. Pretty significant, right? Because that was a plutonium mixed oxide fuel. They cook off like 200,000 degree hotter than the nightmarish reactors. McKinley, are consumers still paying for Yucca Mountain? Jaczko said yes, but that's not an area the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has authority over. I'm really confused by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission because the only purpose they serve is to make sure you can't have a future. Has Fukushima endless radioactive fallout poisoned all species and all humans on the entire planet? Yes. 16 viewers, really, on a show I've been doing for a decade. I can tell you right now, censoring me is not in your interest. There's a small group of, most likely with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, are utilizing the Google to censor me. McKinley, one of our naval vessels, it was actually a whole fleet of them, right, that went down there. It wasn't just one. The USS Ronald Reagan, we know, was within 1 kilometer of the meltdowns. 1 kilometer. One of our naval vessels sailed through a cloud of radiation. Remember, this is still March the 16th, 2011. Jaczko says reactor was venting steam to reduce pressure in the containment vessels. Now, March the 16th, this is March the 16th, or March the 14th, actually, I think, is it? Hang on a second. Yeah, March the 14th, reactor 3 detonated. So once reactor 1 blew up, which March the 12th, you have no access. You're not venting anything. You had no power. You had a tsunami strip 1,200 kilometers of the coastline, up to 10 kilometers inland. There was no telephone poles, let alone light power poles. Jaczko knew the buildings were like this, so Jaczko should be held. He should be in jail for the rest of his life for saying that they were venting. There is no venting. You had no power. It's hard to appreciate these reactors. It really is, right? So think they need 4,005 each of them, not just 2 of them, but each of them. Each one needs 4,500 tons of water a minute, 1 million gallons every minute in 60 seconds. So that's equal to 4,500 one-ton pickup trucks with a ton of water in the back of it. It's equal to 75 one-ton pickup trucks passing you every second to dump water in the reactor. It's equal to 18 miles of one-ton pickup trucks dumping water, 2,200 pounds each of water, on the reactors in 60 seconds. 18 miles of 1-ton pickup trucks, bumper to bumper. 18 miles. Let me repeat this. 18 miles is equal to or 75 1-ton pickup trucks every second, dumping each dumping 2,200 pounds. They call that carbon free for some reason. Like because we talked about this quite a bit. I've done the numbers today, and I was like, oh shit, that's 18 miles, 1-ton pickup trucks every 16 seconds. Or 75 1-ton pickup trucks every second. Or imagine standing in front of your house and there's 4,500 1-ton pickup trucks going to pass your house in 60 seconds. Or that there's 75 1-ton pickup trucks pass your house every second. How much energy does that take? McKinley, could that have been avoided? Jaczko, my understanding, now he's an expert, he's a nuclear engineer, right? Is that they were doing search and rescue and that's how they got contaminated. Like the plume. The plume, just bear with me. So I'm going to stop this on the 16th of March. Okay, so that's the 16th of March right there. That's plume is. This is so it's hard to appreciate how big. That's the entire planet you're looking at, right? It's almost across the ocean in some parts, right? But the whole country of Japan is completely saturated with very, very high levels of radiation. So there's no way that the military, the Navy vessels can be anywhere in that without being in a significant plume. And we know that on the USS Ronald Reagan, the sailors' digital watches all stopped at the same time. They were laughing at first. The bathrooms were clogged up immediately from radiation sickness. People were defecating in the hallways because the bathrooms were stocked. So they were sacrificed, right? So his understanding they were doing search and rescues, that's how they got contaminated. Now remember, he said earlier on page 25, which is coming up here in a minute, or this is page 24, also doses were not significant. He said doses were not significant for the sailors, is what he's saying, right? Wednesday, March the 16th. Markley says, as another senator, other governments are suggesting interim safety measures while studies are being done. What about the Nuclear Regulatory Commission? Jaczko says they work every day to ensure safety. They don't, do they? They work every day to cover up the hideous crimes committed every day by this industry. They can't contain the emissions from the fuel pools. Markley, should distribution of potassium be implemented as a precaution, as my law asks? Jaczko, particular protective actions are responsibilities of the state and the locals. So he everything that they should be responsible for, he passes it off on some other. Their responsibility is to come in, you know what I'm saying, and tell lies. And the people whose responsibility they weren't brought into Congress at all for grillings, right? But you're the expert, says Markley. Jaczko says, current policies that we consider the use of KI, potassium iodate. Markley, do you recommend that Jaczko, state and locals make the choice? So he's not answering questions. He's avoiding answer to the question. Instead of saying no or yes, he says state and locals make that choice. Markley, don't they have the expertise? They don't have the expertise, rather. State and local, because they don't know what they're doing. Like if you go to these nuclear power plant sites, you go to the local fire departments, and they'll tell you they're training to go there in case there's an accident. But they don't understand anything about nuclear. That's why they're training to go there, because they don't know. Otherwise, they would never even consider it. Right? The nuclear industry is not training to go in and deal with the nuclear accident. The fire department is training to go and deal with a fire that they don't understand. A fire that, by the way, doesn't even need oxygen to burn. And that kills everything when you get to the sievers pretty quickly. San Onofre rated to withstand a 7.0 earthquake. Should we upgrade? The International Atomic Energy Agency told Japan 2 years ago its reactor should be able to withstand more. The International Atomic Energy Agency, of course, is a military-industrial complex. That's UN, which is 195 militaries. And so passing the responsibilities for your country off on an organization that's set up the exact same as McDonald's, with no sovereignty over your country, is criminal. Jaczko, plants are designed for ground motion and shaking based on historical data. Yeah, and the Noto Peninsula in Japan on January 1st last year had a 3,000 to 4,000 year old fault line rupture. They didn't have the historical data on that until last year. And it caused 1,500 landslides. It lifted the coastline up 13 feet to higher than that in many places for 75 miles. There was a tsunami that was over 10 feet. The list is very long of the craziness. It was a 150-mile wide fission. The Niigata prefecture, which is north of Ishikawa prefecture, by a nuclear power plant in Niigata, was 6,500 homes sank because of liquefaction. And they can use the same argument that the designs were based on historical data, but they wouldn't have built it there if they had known that it had those particular attributes, right? Cassidy said, if a meltdown occurs, how effective is a containment structure Jaczko is meant to contain? Which is completely dishonest, because he knew that those reactors didn't contain it. Like, it doesn't need oxygen to burn. These explosions are caused by the meltdown, the emissions, the gases produced by the zirconium cladding from the meltdown. The explosions are the emblematic symbol and symptom of the nuclear meltdown. To the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, licensing standards include protection against earthquakes and tsunamis. Jaczko says all natural phenomenon. Dingjol submits kind of disaster Nuclear Regulatory Commission takes into account. You have an unholy mess on your hands in the term of the Yucca. And Yucca Mountain was based on how much heat can the mountain hold for 200 years. That would dictate how much waste you can put in the mountain, because it produces heat, see? And they knew it would never work because they had a fault line there that eventually ruptured, right? And they had rolled out one plan before they called it quits, where they were going to fill the mountain up with air conditioners and just replace the air conditioners as they broke down for the next million years, I guess. They're the worst people. They're truly the worst people, right? They're no intentions of being honest, not even for a billionth of a second. It won't even cross their mind, to be honest. That's who these people actually are. Jaczko says longer time frame for dry cask storage. So the solution is extend the life of the dry cask so-called dry cask storage, but the majority of the waste is in pools, which are splitting atoms and boiling off the water, and the water is saturated with those anthropogenic atoms, and they're released directly into the environment through the tall, skinny stacks on these sites. This is what is surrounded by farms, by the way. Like, everything screams mass genocide machine when it comes to nuclear. They can't contain the emissions. I'm not kidding you. I'm not over-exaggerating. I'm not even able to properly articulate how friggin' crazy this is. That almost every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms because they can't contain the emissions. It's built into the plan. No plans for how to deal with anywhere in the government, Jaczko, not an area the Nuclear Regulatory Commission directly works. Again, they don't cover anything, do they? Well, we don't cover that. We don't cover this. We don't cover them. We don't cover that. Those, these, and them. Burgess, an email has been circulating discussing high levels of radiation. Jaczko says, not familiar with that email. But there have been times when readings were elevated. And Burgess says, well, what levels? Jaczko says, we have seen fatal, lethal levels. But if he didn't get prompted to quantify that assertion, he said he's not familiar with that email. Of course he was. The very next sentence, he acknowledged there was lethal levels. He should be in jail for the rest of his life. And the people like Bill Bouchard and the rest of them that helped cover this up should be in jail for the rest of their lives. They probably should get the death penalty for what they're doing, shouldn't they? Look how many people they killed with their silence. Well, they completely covered it up. And how many times have you done this before? And how many times will you do it again? It's endless. There's not a single person in the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that's considered trustworthy. You can't show me the evidence that they're trustworthy. It doesn't exist because they're not. Lethal levels. Ain't that the shit? Ain't that something, no? Lethal levels. I'm running page 24 to 304. I better get my ass in gear. It was a nightmare to read through all this today, by the way. It was a nightmare. And at the same time, I had to go out and get the cab on the quad. I finally finished that. And then I got stupid and said, well, I'll put the winch, 12-volt winch on the trailer. Because I can't get the skidoo on the trailer without the winch, right? And so, like an idiot, I decided I'll tackle that. That only took 3 hours. My hands and arms were busted up, and I found it such a weird angle. And there's snow out there too, right? So you have to grind everything clean, get out there with the welder, weld everything on. Ugh. I'm super happy to have that accomplished. That's just 2 big pieces of the puzzle done, right? And we got the winch a few days ago on the quad. We're getting there. We got another winch on the way. One more winch on the way. And I think that's going to be here at the weekend, or for the weekend. Hopefully that one is going to be put on the skidoo. I'm not sure how to mount it, because typically when you mount, I didn't mean to change subjects, but just for a second. When you mount a winch on the skidoo, because we're going to use that for research that study the species, not that we're going to find it. They've been wiped out by a stupid, idiotic, massive radioactive fallout. This industry, boy, I'm telling you, it's hard to imagine what this planet will do to these people if he finds out what they got done. Burgess says, in a perfect world, what percentage of power supply is nuclear? Jaczko, not up to us to decide. We just guarantee safety. How can you guarantee safety when the fuel pools have no containment? So the only thing they do, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission does, is safety, and they have the authority. They're the only ones with the authority to make it illegal to poison you with radiation. And they're not going to do it because Congress has the authority, and Parliament has the authority to make it illegal to poison you with over 3,000 chemicals. But they don't have the authority to make it illegal to poison you with radiation. And that's why people bring their loved ones to the hospital, lest the hospital poison them with radiation. Because it's not illegal to kill you with radiation. And they get them sign a piece of paper too. Double indemnity. What's your ideal situation on nuclear waste, Burgess? Says Jaczko. Trying to keep everything safe keeps me up at night already. Like, I don't know how he can look himself in the mirror or anybody in the eye. I just don't understand that. Incredibly educated people that are the most horrible monsters conceivable and are sanctioned to be monsters by this industry. Somebody else can deal with the general policy questions. He literally doesn't have an answer, does he? There's nothing in his scope, but he's the guy there that is put on the pedestal to give answers. He's the expert. Oh, it's that one's responsibility. It's this one's responsibility. It's their responsibility, but they don't have experts. They're not expert. Yeah, but it's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to guarantee safety. And every fuel pool is hemorrhaging radiation. Lethal amounts constantly into the environment. Every second of every day from 1,000 fuel pools. It's the death of the species, right? There's no way the planet can survive. You don't need a nuclear meltdown or nuclear accidents. You just need fuel pools to eventually terminate the entire species on the planet, humans especially. Terry, any discussions to alter licensing plans because of this? Jaczko, we're following our current timelines and continuing reviews. How many licenses are in the pipeline? He said at that time, in 2011, there was 12 applications for 20 reactors. And he said, what about the review of the small modular reactor? What's your opinion? He said 3 different types. There's over 100 right now. And after 80 years, they still haven't come up with one. What does that tell us, I wonder? Wakefield asked more about small modular reactors. And they're just robbing the investors now with the small modular reactor fable, right? There's 14 financial institutions are buying stocks and hanging on to them for 2 weeks. And then when mom and pop goes and buys into the stocks, they cash out. The big financial institutions will cash out and steal their money. Rinse and repeat every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. Since Conference of Parties 29, that's been the new norm now. Artificially inflate the stocks of small modular reactors. They're not trying to build them. They're not buying land. They're not buying the equipment. They don't have licenses into the regulatory agencies' applications or anything like that. It's 100% robbing the investors. That's what small modular reactors are. The situation is scaring everyone. In Japan, they have a lot of experience with their plants. So are you saying these upgrades you mentioned weren't done? Jaczko, I don't know what upgrades they do in Japan. Lautenberg, they thought they could handle it, and it wasn't the case. Carper, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission encourages safety culture, but we want to see it at all plants. What do you mean they encourage safety cultures? You can't have a safe nuclear fuel pool. You can't, because the fuel is splitting atoms, the same atoms you would split for to boil millions of homes every second. Millions of homes and businesses every second are powered by splitting atoms in a containment, right? Once you take it out, it's still producing the same atoms. They're released into the biosphere constantly, into the local environment, the communities, and the farmers' fields they're surrounded by, and the water. The best way to kill a planet is nuclear fuel pools. You guarantee the death of the planet. They're the most dishonest, disingenuous, deceptive, and deceitful. This is a serious situation that will continue for some time. We don't know how it will unfold yet. What do you mean you don't know how it will unfold? Of course you do. Oh. The reactors had detonated by the 16th. We're still on the 16th of March. So, like, they knew this. They seen those pictures. They have satellite pictures of it before anybody else got to see it. The second these detonated, they had the footage. They still got the footage. And they also have footage of reactor 4 detonating. Remember, we have seen lethal levels, which means you can't go and do anything. You can't go in there. First off, you don't have electricity. You had a tsunami run through the site. The fuel pool was right behind reactor 4. So right behind that building is the common spent fuel pool. You really take the common spent fuel pool, which is much lower. It's on the same street, but it's like these buildings are, it's hard to appreciate it, they're 190 feet tall. That was. The fuel pools were at the top of it. The common spent fuel pool probably had 10 to 12 million pounds of fuel stored there. The tsunami ran right through it. Carper, how many lives have been lost from nuclear plants? Jaczko says none from plants. Sometimes radiation contamination occurs in supporting industries. All nuclear power plants are hemorrhaging radiation. Like all of them. Just let me touch up on that for 1 second. The food, like, you poison the entire planet. But I have a good way of explaining that. Just give me 1 second. Well, first off, clearly these people are hideous liars, right? Well, I mean, they're monsters. That's the best way to describe them. That's how you would normally, if there was a criminal trial, you'd be calling them monsters, right? The prosecutor would call them monsters, which is an appropriate term. I'm just going to show you a little tiny fraction of this stuff. But if you go look up at every nuclear power plant, they all got the one attribute, is they're surrounded by farms as far as you can see. The radiation is brutal in small doses. So when you say there's no lives lost, that's completely dishonest, because these places are surrounded by farms as far as you can see. And all the studies show that food sucks up radiation. There's millions and millions of these studies showing that food will suck up radiation. So why are nuclear power plants, fuel pools, situated in the farmland? It's the poison is built in, and it moves the radiation from the local areas. It's not an accident that almost every single nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms. That's not an accident. And 50 atoms a kilogram, irreversible heart damage for children. Like, you can't perceive 50 atoms, okay? Like, a Becquerel is the pulse of energy, but you need an atom to produce that pulse of energy. They call it a decay, but it's not a decay. It could decay for 1 million years. That's not a decay. That's a nightmare. That's a detonation every second for millions of years. How can you describe that as a decay? Right? Because grammar is a really good way to manipulate people, and that's what we're seeing there. Senator Boxer, please don't compare what happened in Japan to airplanes, because this wasn't Jaczko at this point. This was Bill Bouchard. Right? He conflated it with flying on an airplane. And when you hear the words, I don't want to speculate, that was typically Bill Bouchard, who was waiting for Jaczko to show up. So the translator didn't put Bill Bouchard in any of these. His name does show up, but not in context. And you'll see every nuclear academic, everybody from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, all the pundits will say that it's like flying on an airplane. They can be charged under the racketeering statutes, right? This is criminal what they're doing. They're lying. It's a coordinated lie. When you hear the word bananas, potato chips, walking in the sunshine, everything else, it's a coordinated lie. Hi everybody, hugs everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Yeah, I'm welding again. Yeah, my welding has gotten a lot better. I have a lot of practice now. I watched a lot of videos and figured it out. But I've probably gone through gone through like 8 packs of welding rods. There's like 100 rods in each pack. It's around 800 rods. So I've definitely gotten a lot better. It's still no good though. Doesn't look as hideous as it used to look. And now I know to grind everything, weld it again, grind everything, weld it again, routine. And that was the big difference, right? Just keep doing it till everything is smooth, there's no holes. Jaczko, I was liking the way models are retrofitted, that's all. Boxer, you said you're dealing with a situation like what's happening in Japan is straightforward. It just involves cooling the plant. So what went wrong? He said, I don't want to speculate. And I got a whole video of Bill Bouchard saying, I don't want to speculate. Literally every question. And then Boxer would say, like, you're the experts. And Bill Bouchard would be, I don't want to speculate. And those videos, I can't find the video. Let me have one more go at it. I got to take the video and just reformat it. But we played it not that long ago. But the majority of the versions I got, let me see if I can find it. Bloop, 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 bloop. Do, 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 do. No, won't play. There's 4 of them came up that time. Oh! What do we got here? No, that's the whole thing. Sorry. Got me all excited there. That's March the 16th. Oh yeah, maybe that's it there. I don't know. That's Bill Bouchard. Let's put on our headphones. I gotta adjust the volume for you, but that's not the one I'm looking for. I don't think that's the right one. Let's have a quick boot out. Yeah, that's it.
We're here to get a briefing on the ongoing crisis associated with the nuclear power plants in Japan. I'm very privileged that we have the executive director for operations at the NRC here, Bill Borchardt.
I couldn't speculate on that.
An expert, a true expert as well.
Again, I wouldn't wish to speculate.
So we feel very blessed that you could come and stand in until the chairman comes, and we really do welcome you.
Again, I can't speculate.
Well, teaching all of us the lessons that we have to take away from what is happening.
I couldn't speculate on that. What we believe is a significant amount of fuel damage in the 3 operating reactors, units 1, 2, and 3, which were operating at the time of the earthquake. And then because of the spent fuel problems that are in Unit 4 of that reactor facility. All of those factors taken into combination, if that same type of source term, that same type of radiological problem existed in the United States, our recommendation to state governments would be to evacuate out to 50 miles.
Well, that's a really good point, because I'm asking you, do you know how many people live within 50 miles of San Onofre nuclear power plant?
I do not know.
Well, I'm going to tell you how many people. 7.4 million people.
I don't want to speculate. You see what I mean when I make that statement? I don't want to speculate. Just bear with me here. I take that clip, put it somewhere where I can find it again. But he was quoted as being Jaczko. I can probably poke it down there. And one more place that I'm always searching. I probably already got it there, but I forgot. No, I don't have it there. There you go. Now it's there. Let's get after it again. Alrighty. Bill Bouchard. Jaczko, I don't want to speculate. That was actually Bill Bouchard, see? Not Jaczko. And he did quit, but long after he told all these lies. He still told all these lies. He wrote a book, but he still told lots of lies. I watched interviews of him later, right? I mean, I took all of them videos, by the way, and I chopped them up into little bites. And I labeled everything. I just don't have the time to get through it all tonight if I go that route. Boxer LA Times said California tsunami could come without a warning. We're very concerned. This Japanese plant was built to withstand the same things and got worse events. Given the stakes, this is worrying. 7 million people live close to San Onofre, right? And that's what she just said in that video. Remember that? And so it wasn't Jaczko. That was Bill Bouchard, because they were waiting. Jaczko hadn't showed up, right? Canyon, you suggested Americans move 50 miles from Fukushima. But in the United States, they would only say 10 miles, see? Lautenberg, should we restudy evacuation routes? What's the safe distance for families? There is no safe distance. If you're on the planet, you're going to get poisoned by radioactive fallout from 1,000 fuel pools. They're gone all out on the censorship tonight, aren't they? Those on me, is always censor on me. I don't give a fuck anyway. I'm going to do the show. Jaczko, those are all issues we want to consider. We'll have to see what happens in Japan, what worked. You didn't have to wait. They got satellite images of the detonations. They've seen them all. They got satellite images before we got these pictures. We got these pictures right away. And every nuclear academic, every nuclear scientist, every nuclear professor, every nuclear students knew the fuel pools in the reactor cores were gone. There was descending voices, but where did they go after the first couple of years? They completely disappeared, right? Lautenberg says, how close was our warships that noted elevated rad readings? Jaczko said, my understanding is 100 miles away. Well, that's simply not true. If you go and look, you'll see they were about 1 kilometer away. There's video and pictures, and there's testimony from the people that were on the USS Ronald Reagan. Again, Jaczko lied under oath to Congress. They received low-level radiation, not unexpected and consistent with the cooling process. Well, there was no cooling process. The reactor blew up. There is no low-level radiation, even in North America. You'll see that coming up in a little bit. Does that tell us something about kinds of risks, Jaczko? I'm aware of rad detections at levels not harmful to the public health and safety. But he said earlier on page 25, there was lethal levels, right? Outside. Still March the 16th, 2011. Upton, tell us what functions are of 11 folks you send to Japan. You send 11 people to Japan. They went to Tokyo. They did not go to Fukushima. The 11 individuals sent to Japan are providing a variety of services, organizing look at reactors. Well, they're not there looking at the reactors. No one's there looking at the reactors. Reactors blew up and ejected the reactor fuel everywhere. No one's going there. They have satellite pictures, really high quality satellite videos. That might never be, well, probably at some point 50, 100 years down the road will get released when everybody's dead. In Tokyo, our folks are in Tokyo. not the Fukushima, you're not looking at the reactors from Tokyo. Where was the hydrogen explosion in the Fort reactor, Unit 4? The Fort reactor. Jaczko, don't have specific information. Like, they had the footage right away at Reactor 4. They have the video of the explosion of Reactor 4. I despise them. Every one of these people for doing what they're doing. The reason we can't have a future and we won't have a future is because of the nuclear industry. They destroyed everything. This is why we got a poll tonight asking the very same question. I'm not asking the question. I can prove this. See, I've done the research expeditions. We're still busy. I mean, I'm not very healthy. I'm not even healthy enough to do what I'm doing right now, but I'm doing it because the world's full of too many fucking cowards. Has Fukushima endless radioactive fallout poisoned all? I'm talking about the academic world. Has Fukushima endless radioactive fallout poisoned all the species and humans on the entire fucking planet? I guess 17 lousy fucking thumbs up after an hour. Because of censorship, right? We're still at the hearing updates, the 5th, March the 16th, 2011. Rush, but in Japan it was an earthquake and a tsunami. What about a tornado? Jaczko, we look at all natural phenomena. See, he's not asking the fucking answering the question, is he? You know what? Because I'm starting to get a little cranky now. Because when I see so many laws, I got a tendency to get a little fucking caveman. Rush, number one threat to facilities here is terrorist activities. So, like, the number one threat is not terrorist activities, you piece of shit. It's tornadoes. It's supercell storms post-Fukushima, 200 mile per hour winds. Like, the biggest threat to facilities is losing external power. Because they all run on external power, right? And they have 2 dedicated gas, oil, and coal plants. That's what they run on. I explained that at the beginning, how much energy they need. Just to cool the reactors is absurd. Federal position by law is that the UCA should be open, but there's no legal authority to close the UCA. Only legal authority has been rendered as administration to pull funding. But by law, there's no authority to close the UCA. Well, there is, apparently, because they closed it. March the 16th. In the United States, it takes 10 years to receive a permit for a nuclear disease factory. Well, it could be longer. Whitfield says, with sodium-cooled reactors, there's not possibility of a meltdown comment. What the fuck are you talking about? The Rico Fermi plant was a sodium reactor. That melted down. Santa Susana, it fucking melted down. Switzerland's was a sodium reactor. That melted down. Hanford's sodium reactor melted down. The Idaho National Laboratories melted fucking down. Japan's melted down. The Mandu reactor. Shut the fuck up, you piece of shit. Update on current status of reactors. Monitoring 4 reactors at Fukushima number 1. 3 have suffered some degree of core damage. Some degree of core damage. like Jaczko, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission seen these fucking pictures, and so did Congress. This isn't that core damage. This is ejecting the fucking core right into the building and the fuel pools. Like, every academic that's seen these 2 in particular, there's 4 of these buildings, by the way, and at the top of them, around 8 fuel pools, they're gone too. It's a nightmare. All these laws is an even worse nightmare because we can't come up with solutions when all they're going to do is sling all these fucking laws out there. Big turds in every fucking punch bowl, right? Seawater's being ejected. No, like, which will start a criticality, right? A new chain reaction. And then sulfur, right, hits this 9,000 degree Fahrenheit nuclear meltdown temperatures. The sulfur is liberated and creates these spherical balls. And then, which there's academic studies about this, is sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs, right? And then that ingests uranium to curium. The curium, by the way, is the biggest byproduct of radiated fuel rods. And curium isotopes, you need lead shielding 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium. They get sucked up into these sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs. They're very fucking mobile. They're what they call super hot particles. And no matter which species, insect, bird, mammal, animal, human gets it, there's going to be a catastrophic, there's going to be turbo cancer. Unit 2 core cooling not stable. No, Unit 2 burnt for days. It went China syndrome deep down into the earth. It's when it hit water, it split the earth open, and the steam coming out of the ground in 6 places was at over 10 sieverts per hour. Of course, that's what the stationary Geiger counter's maximum numbers were. But the whole site disappeared, and these steams were evacuated the site for weeks at a fucking time. We currently believe primary containment is continuing to function. How can it function once you had these reactors detonate around the site? Like reactor 1 and 2 are right alongside of reactor 3 and fucking 4. I'm sorry. Extinction events has that fucking effect on me sometimes. Seawater being ejected reported stable cooling. No, it's completely a fable. How can you eject something when the whole area is saturated with nuclear fuel rods? You fucking can't. Unit, like the helicopter couldn't even go there, for goodness sakes. Unit 2 spent fuel pool level is decreasing. That fuel pool burnt constantly for days as it went into a deep earth China syndrome. It's not gone to China, but it's deep into the earth, right? The fuel pools of reactor 1, 2, 3, and 4 are gone. That's not up for fucking debate. Unit 3, we believe, spent fuel pool integrity has been compromised. Oh, let's have a fucking look at it. Does that look compromised? That's the fuel pool up right there. Is that what we now call compromised? I call it the ejecting of the reactor core and the fuel pools. Not compromised. These are worthless fucking humans, right? So I apologize. I get upset about the lies, right? If you went out and done the research expeditions with me, you'll be the same fucking way, trust me. Bit of a stitch in my rib here now. Great. I already busted up from working all fucking day. Trying to get the fleet put back together. It's working, we're getting there. I'll be okay when I wake up tomorrow. As long as I don't go do something stupid again tomorrow, you know I'm going to. It's miserable out there working now too. It's freezing. We're supposed to get snow tonight, snow tomorrow. But usually like later in January is when we start getting the heavy snowfalls. And I'm going to make sure I'm ready. And so I have a very tiny budget to work with. I actually don't have any budget at this stage. I got like $60 left or something. But we got most of the things now. I got the rest of the stuff ordered in. We got lots of gas. Stuff like that. We're in pretty good shape in that context, right? But we don't have a lot of people, or we only have at best 2 people now contributing. And so I don't know how we're able to keep the operation moving, right? I just don't know how to do it. It's a big operation, right? And they got me defunded basically. We just got a couple of people that are able to maintain donations. And every day I just got to hope for the fucking best, right? They still can't break my spirits, see? Because, you know, it's a fucking extinction event. Let me talk about that for 1 second. So we know the plume covered the whole planet. And the reason we call Fukushima radioactive fallout is global warming is because it was a pulse event. And we've seen typhoons and cyclones and hurricanes go from 100, 150 mile per hour to 200, 250 mile per hour, and we don't have building codes to deal with that. But we launched research expeditions. And we went out and done the research expeditions for 6 years. Right, and so I done all the way from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska. It was very difficult, very, very, very difficult times. I punched a hole in the pontoon that day. Washed up on the rocks that night in a hurricane. That was a typical day. It might look all fancy right there, but it was miserable, right? And the species we're looking at there are now exterminated. I know, we went out there year after year after year. Well, I went out there by myself. And the species to your left never came back. So the species to your left, because that's why we went back for 5 more years to see if the species recovered, right? The species to your left never came back. So the ocean, the food chain is broken, period. We'll never see these, you'll never take these pictures to your left again. They're gone. And that's due to the radioactive fallout from Japan. And that's not up for debate either. The species to your left, incredible, unbelievable diversity, is gone. They are gone. And we know because we went out year after year after year after year to quantify that, to see if the species recovered. And there was nothing in, like, you're talking about 27,000 islands. Right? You're talking about 27,000 islands. And at high tide, I was up in the estuaries. Take this little Zodiacs up in the estuaries and go into the forest. There's no fucking birds. There's no insects. And the entire 4 to 5 months at a time, you'd be lucky to see 3,000 birds. Majority of them were seagulls, and you would find a majority of them in just a couple of places close to communities. That's an extinction event. That's due to perpetual radioactive fallout from Japan. Just waiting for my system to catch up here. You're not injecting seawater into a nuclear meltdown, okay? It doesn't work that fucking way. The buildings blew up. You're not going there and standing up injecting water. Simply, that's the facts. Unit 3 wasn't compromised. It ejected the fuel pool right out of the fucking building. And the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the people that they're quoting there all friggin' knew that. The worst humans conceivable. And they should be arrested and put in jail for the rest of their life. They should get the death penalty for what they've done. That, in every sense of the word, warrants a death penalty. And the people that are suppressing me, they should get the death penalty too. This is not a fucking game, okay? I haven't got time for bullshit. Fort Reactor, I'm not getting any younger. Fort Reactor, which was shut down at the time of the earthquake, is also under concern. Hydrogen explosions due to uncovering at the spent fuel pool. Again, it's not uncovering at the spent fuel fucking pools. You're talking about complete annihilation, complete discharge of the inventories, the complete loss of all the decades of reactor cores. Trying to sugarcoat it is not fucking helpful. Fort Reactor, which shut down at the time of the earthquake. Which the time of Reactor 4, Unit 4. That's Unit 4 over there. Look, there's nothing left. Yeah, and I mean, shut down at the time of the earthquake, that's true. It's 100% true. But there's still 8 reactor cores at the top of the buildings, and then you never take all the fuel out of the reactor core during maintenance, right? You're taking out maybe 1/3 of the reactor core. So 2/3 of the reactor core was still in the reactor. And here's reactor 4 to your right. Look, there's nothing left. The reactor fuel pools are at the top of the building. Same for reactor 3. There's nothing left. Let me fix this. Let me go backwards. Hydrogen explosions due to the uncovering of the spent, like uncovering the spent fuel. The hydrogen is created because once the fuel rods are exposed, when they say uncovering at the spent fuel pool, they're talking about the water level dropping down. The fuel rods are now exposed to oxygen. And what happens is zirconium is very reactive with oxygen. So it catches fire immediately and burns at 1800 degrees. That's what created the hydrogen, by the way. But because it's burning, you got a spark. And so once you displace the oxygen, if you reintroduce oxygen or the spark, now it'll detonate, right? So it's boiling the water off. Now, inside of that is the uranium plutonium pellets. They're coated in zirconium. Zirconium was used to be used in the dirty 30s, say, for instance, for the big camera flashes. And you would see this big puff of smoke. And what was going on was the flash was this container, like a headlight. Think of a headlight. And then there was a hammer that smacked the glass, and the glass would break, oxygen rushes in, the zirconium would flash, and then it had the reflector, and that would light up the whole room, and everybody in there was breathing this fucking stuff in there, and got sick and died within the next couple of years from that exposure to those flashes from the cameras. When you look at the legacy of the nuclear industry, what they've done with radium toothpaste, radium soap, radium for shining your furniture. Think about it. I would never buy antique furniture after appreciating how insane this industry actually was, because everything was polished with radium. That's not going away for 55,000 years with a 5,500 year half-lives. Like if you go to an antique shop and just with a Geiger counter that can read radium, you're going to run the fuck away right away. You can trust me. Radiation levels high, which could impact the ability to take corrective measures. Hydrogen explosions due to the uncovering. So once the fuel rods catch fire, you're going to boil off the rest of the water and the rest of the fuel is exposed. Now you have a massive nuclear meltdown. See? That's what caused the explosions. It's knowledge. The industry knows the meltdown or the hydrogen explosions is because it's a nuclear meltdown. But they wanted to cover it up. They wanted it to go away. They were living the high life. They were jetting around. They were eating caviar and $7,000 chiclet. They're eating the last condor eggs on the planet. They were just living the high life, right? And now they knew that was all gone. And so they've done everything they can to cover up the horror of what happened, so they continue to live their exorbitant lifestyles. And they succeeded. Good for them. Killed the whole fucking planet because they're fucking greedy. Way to go, stupid. That's the definition of stupid. If any of them got children, they should be taken away and sent to Fukushima to work on Fukushima, and don't let them ever come out of there. International Atomic Energy Agency, because you don't want them to grow up and be like their parents were. International Atomic Energy Agency report on 2 other reactors that the spent fuel pool water levels are down slightly. The IAEA and the people in the International Atomic Energy Agency should be arrested and prosecuted for crimes against humanity for putting that law out there, because they knew better. They're not naive and they're not fucking gullible. They're just scumbags like the rest of them in the nuclear industry. That's what the nuclear industry is, just thousands and thousands of scumbags. Non-regulatory commission made recommendations that we would evacuate to a larger distance in the United States, up to approximately 50 miles. Still, March the 16th. Confirmed radiation models we are using regarding Japan. They were getting all of these correspondence. They put it this one: this is not a drill. This is not a drill. Because it, like, in their own memos, they acknowledge what happened. But publicly, I mean, like, I got links in my descriptions to over 4 million of these emails. This was from just the 16th. And what we're seeing, like, you start noticing these patterns. March the 17th, hey, we moved to another day. Don't worry, we'll get back to March the 16th quick enough. Just for your information, Holly doesn't want us to respond to these types of emails, so we aren't doing anything with it. So anybody that's asking real questions, they were thrown into the shit pile. Don't respond pile. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, you wouldn't believe the amount of people that they had working. You wouldn't believe it. Hopefully we get to it. I got a big fucking list. It's just unbelievable how many people they had working on this cover-up. Individuals were educated about the radiation, looking for quantitative basis for a conclusion that radiation effects in Southern California would not be harmful. California was brutal, right? Because, like, the typical anthropogenic pollution, industry pollution, was added to the indexes of California because of the Trans-Pacific corridor. The winds would blow straight across within a few days, and it was known to linger over California, which happens to be the breadbasket for a lot of America and Canada too. I'm very cautious of eating anything from California, but California, a lot of that radiation is sequestered in the trees and the land, right? And these bizarre fires where the trees are not burning. That whole story is just crazy on top of it. He was specifically concerned that even a small level of radiation in addition to the background would add up over time. What's known as bioaccumulation. I indicated that our conclusion about no harmful radiation reaching the United States accounted for the duration of exposures. I referred him to RadNet and the CDC phone numbers. And you see that pop up over, that kind of connotations pop up over and over and over. I also referred him to our website for news releases, and specifically the press release that had a calculation showing how the doses dropped off with distance. But that's not fucking true, is it? Because we got the luxury of hindsight, don't we? And they knew this. They're not naive. They're not gullible at all. Everything I'm talking about, they knew this, and they came up with a counter to cover it. Unprecedented spike. This stuff tonight is some of the most important information conceivable. It's undeniable cover-up, right? It's undeniable. 1,500 atoms of the radioactive sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs per cubic meter of air detected in the California air. Sounds like we could emphasize that there's no harmful levels are expected here. But, of course, it was. It was over 1 million atoms of xenon-133. Nuclear industry tried to bury the truth. UC Berkeley told the public there is no plume. March the 17th. Question: Would like to find out what are the estimates for potential radiation levels? What do they mean? Explain the time of exposure. Is it different if it's an extended period of time of exposures? Is it different? What are the comparisons, like half an X-ray, chest X-ray per day? When the radiation is ingested in your body, it's got nothing to do with a chest X-ray. Chest X-ray, turn it on and turn it off, right? This is in your body pulsing energy every second for the rest of your life. Your body's going to attack it with white blood cells for the rest of your life and build a tumor around it. It's exploding, so it's wrecking your chromosomes, your DNA, and your cells every second for the rest of your life. It's got nothing to do with a chest X-ray. It's 1 trillion times worse than a chest X-ray. I literally despised them when they say the words chest x-rays or bananas or potato chips or walking in the sunshine. I just have nothing but rage and hate for them. Because they're vicious scum. They're just scum. They're worse humans. Well, they're not even humans when they do that. They're literally monsters. International Atomic Energy Agency today admitted there's no such thing as a safe level of anthropogenic man-made radiation, and that their standards at the International Atomic Energy Agency are based on benefits, on hormesis, not safety. There is no benefit from the anthropogenic man-made radiation, for fuck's sakes. So in other words, the International Atomic Energy Agency doesn't have a standard. So a nuclear plant can release all it wants because the International Atomic Energy standards are based on potassium and magnesium, not uranium and plutonium. That should fucking enrage everybody on this planet. Top cancer doctor, nuclear radiation, the most carcinogenic thing that exists. The company has experience with using robotic equipment in hazardous situations. He recommended the Japanese use robotic equipment in conjunction with fire trucks to supply water to the reactors. You fucking can't go near that. There's so much there. You can't cover all the idiots. I hope this reaches you, and I hope I'm not wasting your time. Of course you're wasting your time, shit brains. Their effort in Japan on cooling the spent fuel suggests to me the pool is outdoors. Which is not. It's at the top of the fucking reactor buildings. They tried to reach you with water cannons, but it's also suggested to me the safe distance needed is too far for what I suggest. I believe the helicopters can bring hoses. There were 600 helicopter pilots in Chernobyl. Every fucking one of them died within 2 weeks. They sent helicopters in, the helicopters turned away. And this is equal to 3,000 Chernobyls, because Chernobyl was a graphite reactor. It was a brand new reactor. It didn't have fuel pools at the top of the buildings. These reactors had 8 reactor cores at the top of each building. These were massive inventories we're talking about, just in the reactors, let alone the fuel pools. These were pure uranium, pure plutonium. And reactor 3 was the plutonium mixed oxide reactor. It was infinitely fucking different than a nightmarish normal reactor melting down. The estimates are 3,000 to 3,800 times worse than Chernobyl. And the common spent fuel pool is fucking gone. Another 10, 12 million pounds. And the speculation reactor 6 is gone, right? Because of the pictures that were released on the 10th anniversary in 2021. 700 pictures. You'll find it in my playlist. I've done a video about it with the pictures where everything was redacted. The common spent fuel pool was redacted, reactor 6 was redacted, and I mean redacted. So there has to be a catalyst for doing something like that, see? And so Buddy is an idiot to even suggest, because if he watched TV, he would have known the reactors were blown up. We've seen on TV how the Japanese have tried to dump water on the reactors or rods to help cool them down. I believe this process has been suspended because the water is drifting away. No, it's suspended because there's lethal doses in the helicopter. I just hate these people. Why not try dropping large chunks of ice from the helicopter or even dry ice? Let's drop a couple of 1-ton chunks of shit down there and start another chain reaction. And the ice, what the ice will do, it'll cause the neutrons to reflect, right? Which could cause a recriticality if any of the reactors. I mean, at this point, they're in full-blown meltdown, so detonations and China syndrome and everything else. Page 50. Jim O'Neill from the Bergen Record in New Jersey would like to do a story discussing the difference in opinions regarding evacuation rads between the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and Japan. He also would like to inform on how we'll come up with our basic 10-mile radius. The NRC is aware that the Union of Concerned Scientists issued a report today regarding the safety of the U.S. nuclear power plants in 2010. This was a David McIntyre. And so he said, Rob Taylor developed his talking point for answering questions of the Union of Concerned Scientists. Stick your finger in your nose while speaking it and flick it out with gusto when saying the word safety in the final sentence. So you're saying, get a big booger in your nose, keep your finger there, and when you get safety, flick it in the face of the Union of Unconcerned Scientists. Right, David McIntyre. March 17. You got the worst nuclear accident in history. And their reaction is to attack anybody, and in a pretty disgusting way, isn't it? That's what this industry is. They're disgusting. They're fucking disgusting. Remember to stick your finger in your nose while speaking it. And flick it out with gusto when saying the word safety in the final sentence. These are fucking pigs, eh? From David McIntyre. Yeah, the non-regulatory commission are full of fucking monsters, man, and scumbags. And there's so many examples. When you're reading this stuff, there's so many examples of it. How many people read, and I put that link there, when I posted like 3 hours before the show went live, but how many people clicked on the link and went and tried to read through all of this fucking stuff and gave up because it's madness? Because you really got to read through a lot of stuff to get these little tidbits. It's literally torture. It literally almost made me puke a couple times a day. I was just sitting there and just mind-numbing, boring fucking stuff. And then you get all these little tidbits. So the way I work is I'm trying to build a profile, right? And so anything that looks like it might be useful later, I'll take a screen capture of it. Like when I do my shows each night, there's around 300 screen captures, but I probably make 600 or 700 screen captures. And so before I can do the show, I have to edit through all of this, get rid of the junk, because it's really hard to get through 300 screen captures. And I got a tendency to pile on a whole bunch of supporting documentation. So usually a show for me is like 500 screen captures. So it's fucking overload every time, isn't it? Anybody that comes here is unbelievably educated. The people that come here must have some heart, I can tell you that much. You must have some heart to come to my shows. Because there's so much technical stuff going on. There's so much information. We literally write a book every fucking day here. And I'm not doing it because I fucking like torturing myself, I can tell you that much. Anybody thinks what I'm doing is fun or amusing or fucking just an everyday la stuff or completely missing or not watching any of these shows, right? Like I don't sit here and everything shows up on its own. I gotta go through everything. There are determinations being made about which countries we're sharing what type of info with. Which is an interesting statement, right? Because they'll tell one country something, one thing, and tell another country something else. So they might tell the Regulatory Commission in Britain the truth, or France the truth, but the rest of the country go fuck themselves, right? There are determinations being made about which countries we're sharing what type of information with. Thanks, Jenny. March the 16th. I received the following question from a foreign nuclear professional. I do not know the person, but he has sent me an email asking some technical questions before. Rob Taylor developed his talking point for answering questions on the Union of Unconcerned Scientists report. Remember to stick one finger in your nose while speaking it and flick it out with gusto when saying the word safety. There is no safety. Well, first off, the Union of Unconcerned Scientists, Union of Concerned Scientists, are fucking scumbags. We done a half a show was about one of their stories Monday? Was it Sunday? I can't remember. Like, there is no such thing as a weekend with me. Every day is a fucking nightmare. Can't get my glasses clean tonight. Hang on, let me try it one more time. What did I... Sometimes you gotta put water on them to clean them. And one of the screws came out of my glasses yesterday, and it was torture. So like an idiot, I got a big magnifying glass on a pedestal, right? And it's got a light on it and everything else, and it's got. So I was out there and I got it, you know, like a doctor doing surgery right through this magnifying glass. And the screw is microscopic, and I drops it, and I got one of these clots on the table so it can't bounce, right? Sure enough, it fucking ends up on the floor, and I was like, oh shit, I'm never gonna find it because it's shit. And so I got this great big magnet, and I start sweeping it all over the area, and it took a couple of minutes, but I found it. But you literally got to use the handheld microscope to spot it on the magnet because of all the other, because I do a lot of grinding and welding and everything, right? So it's torture. But I did pick up one of these glass kits for like, it was like $4 or something, right? And it had all the little tiny drivers and everything. Man, was I ever happy to have that thing. Because a normal screwdriver is never going to work, right? Let me keep going here. How are we doing on time? We're not going to get through it. I'll pick up tomorrow night, I guess, when we finally end. We'll keep going for a while, though. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is aware, like tomorrow night, I'm not sure. I was thinking about doing a die-off show tomorrow night. As if I show up tomorrow night. Who knows if I will even show up tomorrow night. I'm pretty fucking burnt out because I know it's going to work tomorrow. I might get this Skidoo out for the first run tomorrow. Who knows? Just a test run. I'm starting to digress now, so I apologize to everybody because we're doing research with the Skidoo. But I got there's like 100 maintenances to do on that Skidoo that's never been done to it. You'd be surprised how much maintenance you got to do to the whole friggin' thing is one great big. It's not hard to do. It's no matter what you're doing. You try to do anything mechanically, 100 different maintenances. It takes a few fucking days, right? And that's the project I'm going to start on tomorrow. All the basics, do all the grease. I need a lifter for the back of the Skidoo to get it up in the air so I can do the rest of them. And you can probably pick them up secondhand, $40 or $50, I know you can. We're getting there. But I got to check all the fluids. There's a lot of the drive fluids, the gearbox fluids, the transmission fluids. I got 3 extra belts, so that's kind of cool. Let me keep going here. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is aware that the United Union of Non-Concerned Scientists has issued a report today regarding the safety of the nuclear power plants in 2010. Wanda Sanchez from Solemn Radio Network. San Francisco wants someone to comment on here about the possibility of radiation in the United States regarding the Japanese situation. And what was the date on that? 17th of March. It was day 6, right? Day 6. 17 is day 6. And so day 6, all the reactors have already detonated at day 6. God, you cheap fuckers, give me some thumbs up. Stop watching my videos and not give me thumbs up. What the hell is wrong with you people? I don't give a shit. Don't worry about it. But it wouldn't hurt to get a few more thumbs up. I work like a fucking dog. Can't even get 24. I got 24 likes. That's not bad though for Dana, unfortunately. Call from the public. If you get a call regarding a health question, where do I get iodine pills? Send them to the CDC. And there was a lot of stuff like that. If you get a call regarding what's going on, is California in danger? Send them to Amy or Rob. If a caller has a suggestion about how to stop the meltdown, say this. Right here, here's your chain mail replies. We appreciate the suggestion of folks with ideas to resolve the situation in Japan. Please understand, the Non-Regulatory Commission has some of the most disgusting parasites in the world available to fuck over the Japanese authorities in whichever way they feel. We are fully staffed in all of our response teams at this time and working 24 hours a day, so fuck off and leave us alone. That's what they're basically saying. They really are scumbags, eh? March the 17th. March the 16th. Good afternoon. I'm an American citizen who's scheduled to fly through Narita Airport on Saturday, March 19th. I am not leaving the Narita terminal and will be on the ground for approximately 2 hours and 45 minutes, which is plenty of time to breathe in millions of little microscopic atoms, anthropogenic man-made atoms, and fuck over your health forever. Are there any existing concerns for the safety of people traveling through this area from a radiation perspective? Nuclear Regulatory will tell you jack shit. The CDC will fuck you over, and the EPA will even do worse. We have permission from the CDC to forward radiation health-related public callers to the CDC. And we do not post this, however, internal use only. Do not post this. Ain't that interesting? 2017. Comment. I am an MIT graduate, though not degreed in this field. Japan needs water in its nuclear reactor cooling pools. Why not just install a new pipe running from the remote pumping station? Damn it. What's wrong with you people? Duh. Did she when it ran into a big piece of glass? Up the side of a cooling pool and hook it over the rim. And you can use a helicopter. Yeah, it's not hard to know she came from MIT, is it? You're not doing jack fucking shit. That cement pump truck you see over to your left, that's there for posterity. That's there to make you think that they're doing something. There is no fuel pool. There is no reactor cores. There really isn't. And reactor 3 is a prime example. The fuel pools are at the top of the buildings. The top of the buildings are gone. They're actually ejected right out of the buildings. All the trees are... Like when you look at the buildings, because we got the luxury of hindsight, they had the luxury of satellites, so they knew the same as what you're seeing right now. They knew the buildings ejected. They knew the reactors were destroyed. Who is responsible for decontaminating Yokosuka Base? She does have the access to classified phone lines if needed. March the 17th. So what's going on there? They're a long ways away. So they were radiated? They were radiated. They're way past Tokyo. So they're probably 400 kilometers away from Fukushima. Who is responsible for decontaminating the Yokosuka Base? Which is right here. And Fukushima's up there. It's around 400 kilometers, right? I'm not sure the exact numbers. Ain't that interesting? Ain't that an interesting statement? I've never heard that one before. They turned off the Geiger counters in California during the fires, right? Over the last number of days. That's what Mark was saying. Mark's really good. Request for a response to the Union of Concerned Scientists report on the U.S. nuclear plant safety issues. Hi, Elliot or Scott. I'm writing about the Union of Unconcerned Scientists reports on the U.S. nuclear plant safety released today. I wonder if you could provide a response or a statement on the report. I will be following this article just over an hour from now. So it's interesting to see the journalists reaching out to the Nuclear Regulatory Commissions, so many times during this period, looking for the counter argument to any kind of debate. But not once did they show you the pictures of Fukushima. The same people didn't show you these pictures, right? The same journalists didn't show you those pictures. They went and got the non-regulatory commission's narrative, which they knew was going to be a lie, and to publish that, right? Dave Holly, I'm sorry to come back to you on this, but these would be extremely high doses for the evacuated population, even at 30 miles. Extremely high doses. West Coast radiation exposure subject, David McIntyre. Radnet isn't all it's cracked up to be. People have to go through a registration process, and the website does not give doses. It gives a lot of highly technical information that the public would have no chance of interpreting. It also doesn't give info about the EPA's monitoring of milk, etc. The EPA, man. The lowest forms of life, eh? The non-regulatory commission has responded quickly and effectively to an incredibly challenging situation. We staffed the operations center 24/7 since last Friday. We have a team of 11 individuals in Japan, Tokyo, to help facilitate coordinations on the U.S. government's response. The quality of the work done by the non-regulatory commission staff is clearly recognized and appreciated by all of our stakeholders. The cover-ups, eh? The NRC are just the most worthless humans I've ever come across. Given the available information, we continue to be very concerned about the conditions of 3 reactor cores and 2 spent fuel pools. Because they refuse to acknowledge reactor 4 to your left, right? They refuse, even today, refuse to acknowledge that happened. But you go to TIPCO and get that picture. Based on calculations performed by the non-regulatory commission's experts for the situation as a whole, we believe it is appropriate for the U.S. residents within 50 miles of the Fukushima reactors to evacuate. And our recommendation is based on the non-regulatory commission's guidelines. Like the non-regulatory commission really, like when they were sat in front of Congress, they deferred everything. For public safety that would be used in all U.S. under similar circumstances. Well, you should evacuate 1,000 miles when you got a single reactor meltdown, let alone 4 and 32 reactors in the fuel pools, all melted down. 8 fuel pools, each one got around 4 reactor cores or more because they don't have a repository, right? At the same time, however, we do not expect any part of the United States or its territories to experience any harmful levels of radioactivity, given the great distance involved. That's simply not true, is it now? Like they knew how this worked. All the countries were producing studies and models too. Right? And this is a study from Canada. 20 million particles. Particles are way worse. Iodine-131. For every iodine-131, there's 10 times more iodine-132, 30 times more iodine-133, 31 times more iodine-129. Transported rapidly to Canada and the United States. Elevated levels continued for months. There's zero possibility of the nuclear industry, when he seen that, didn't understand that was going to happen, right? At the same time, however, we do not expect any part of the United States or its territory to experience any harmful levels of radioactivity given the great distances. The Non-Regulatory Commission is working closely with the federal partners to monitor radiation releases from the Japanese nuclear power plant. No, they're not, because everything was released right away. They didn't acknowledge that. Bill Bouchard. There you go. That's his mention, right? Even though I played the video earlier of Bill Bouchard. And his response to Congress, he's the expert. The best of the best. They're experts. The expert. Let me play that again because that's really fun, right? This is on March the 16th. That's the same day as these stories. This one's March the 17th. Make her a lawyer out of me, why don't you? March 17th. March 17th. Okay, I'm off by a day. Sue me.
We're here to get a briefing on the ongoing crisis associated with the nuclear power plants in Japan. I'm very privileged that we have the executive director for operations at the NRC here, Bill Borchardt.
I couldn't speculate on that.
An expert, a true expert as well.
Again, I wouldn't wish to speculate.
So we feel very blessed that you could come and stand in until the chairman comes, and we really do welcome you.
Again, I can't speculate.
Well, teaching all of us the lessons that we have to take away from what is happening.
I couldn't speculate on that. What we believe is a significant amount of fuel damage in the three operating reactors, units 1, 2, and 3, which were operating at the time of the earthquake. And then because of the spent fuel problems that are in Unit 4 of that reactor facility. All of those factors taken into combination, if that same type of source term, that same type of radiological problem existed in the United States, our recommendation to state governments would be to evacuate out to 50 miles.
Well, that's a really good point, because I'm asking you, do you know how many people live within 50 miles of San Onofre nuclear power plant?
I do not know.
Well, I'm going to tell you how many people. 7.4 million people.
I created this video. How long ago is that now? 12 years ago or something? Like that, I chopped it up, right? We challenged it originally. I talked with staff on our protective measure teams. They informed me that the information that you request is not available outside the federal government at this time. The non-regulatory chairman has testified before Congress yesterday stating that we in the U.S., including Alaska and Hawaii, are not expected to experience any harmful levels of radioactivity. Well, that's simply not true, was it? The French's model was based on 8 days. The cesium-137 was pulses energy 600 feet every second. It came out later, right? The IRSN. There was very high concentrations of hot particles in the Pacific Northwest, including plutonium and americium. See, the nuclear regulatory, anything I'm showing you, the nuclear regulatory was aware of. They got access to it long before anybody else did. I've been working with Todd Barber for 2 days via phone, and I need help. His concerns may merit talking to some technical experts in the op center or forwarding to the military. He is with the Gulfstream Aerospace, and they really need to know what dangers these exposed aircrafts pose once they are back from Japan. They know how to deal with the people, but they don't know how to address the aircraft. Is the water they use to clean it contaminated, for instance? Someone has to know, maybe the military. The Japanese are hiring planes to take them out of these locations because the commercial airlines aren't flying. In particular, he wants to know what isotopes are coming out of the reactors and their half-lives. This would be helpful. Well, it's very high concentrations. Plutonium and americium. The French government was showing 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. Now, that plume model is only based on 8 days. Their updated version is based on 31 days. Or is this the 8 day? This is 16-day one, I think it is. I can't remember. Yeah, this is 31 days. So we're approaching 20 days now. 20 days of radioactive fallout. This is the French government, the French government. And you're talking about 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air, covering the entire fucking planet. Oh, I'm not going to make it much longer. Should we pick up here tomorrow night or something, I wonder? Let me finish it just a little tiny bit. Nuclear contamination of aircraft operating in northern Japan. And have the range and capabilities fly 7,000 Gulfstreams, 7,000 miles. In the past 48 hours, we received requests from several aircraft operators regarding exposures to radiation from the Fukushima Daiichi plant. As you see, U.S. citizens could have contact with these airplanes. The Gulfstream, we the Gulfstream are not, nor do we employ any nuclear experts, as this is not a normal operating environment for any civilian aircraft. We request assistance with the following technical aspects of the disaster. What is the life of the harmful isotopes? Well, plutonium is 240,000 years or something. We request assistance with the following technical aspects of the disaster. What is the life of the harmful isotopes that are in the atmosphere over northern Japan? It's not just northern Japan, as I showed you. It covers you're flying invisible plumes, right? You're flying through the plumes. And so the people that are in the planes are getting a lot less oxygen because they got so much radiation. So you expect to see an increase post-Fukushima of air rage and also road rage too, right? Stuff like that. Is there a length of quarantine time that these particles will become safe and be of no risk to personnel operating, servicing, or maintaining the aircraft and come in contact with them? No. The airplane will turn to dust long before the isotopes will be liberated back into the environment. You can't destroy them, see? They're not going to go away. Highly radioactive glass rained on Tokyo. Fukushima nuclear fuel with 500 trillion atoms a kilogram. Significant consequences for human health. Changes the understanding of the disaster. Former top International Atomic Energy Agency official. Actually, Fukushima is a catastrophe for every citizen of the world, right? And he knows that because this is French's model. He knows that's accurate. So let's go back to the Gulf Stream. Right here. And that's what we'll pick up tomorrow. How about that? Because I'm not going to get through all of this tonight. I'm only at page 133 out of 304. I can go for another hour and not even going to come close to finishing it. That's just, it's such an important story. It's such an important story. I don't want to rush it, right? Just bear with me here. You've seen lethal levels. That's Jaczko on the 16th. All right. Has Fukushima endless radioactive fallout poisoned all species and humans on the entire fucking planet? You give us a hell yeah. Come back over here. I just seen no sense in continuing because I'm kind of busted up from the day. I'll be okay tomorrow. I'm just busted up from the hard work today. We got a lot accomplished today, so that's. I do recover really quick though, I must admit, right? But I also get busted up really quick too, I noticed. Did I even zoom in tonight? No, I didn't even zoom in. Look, that's how fucked up I am tonight. Just sitting back nice and cool and calm and collect. Blah, blah, blah. Nothing to see here. Looks like a banana to me, Dana. And they stopped the video before the reactor fuel pool and the reactor core starts falling back to Earth right away. The plume continues to go up, but the heavy fuel pool and reactor cores fall back to Earth really quick, right? That's reactor Medusa. You call it reactor 3, we call it Medusa. How's that for carbon free? That stuff is some carbon free, isn't it? Now remember, the dirty fucking Japs are only looking at external doses. When you type in internal doses, you get nothing. When you type in external, this is a study came out last week. We covered it extensively. The whole fucking show just on this one study. And they're using this study of natural radiation, don't even include man-made radiation, to quantify sending people back into the nuclear wasteland. They really are disgusting parasites, aren't they? External, external, external. Do you really think there was 865,000 extra cancers in the first year from external radiation? Does anybody really think that? Despicable fucking scums. And remember, every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms as far as you can see. If you took a satellite picture, that's your typical nuclear power plant right there. Surrounded by farms as far as you can see. And they call it carbon-free one. This is the biggest project on the entire fucking planet ever. Oh, it's carbon-free. It's net zero, Dana. Come say that to my face sometime. See what happens to yours. I got zero fucking patience for these scumbags. But there's always a good side to every show. There's the closing song. It's always a good song. James is providing us with so much entertainment. It balances out the madness, right? It actually balances out the madness. Has Fukushima, last chance to give me a thumbs up on this one. Has Fukushima endless radioactive fallout poison all species on humans? And humans on the entire planet? Well, hell yeah, Dana. So James just posted a song. Not like an hour ago or something. Which I love to see, of course. And we're going to watch it. That's our closing song. James got a massive amount of anti-nuclear songs. He does all the AI videos and all the music. And he's unbelievably good, but apparently he's just getting started. And so we're in for a lot of entertainment in the future. That's going to be our closing song tonight. And we haven't listened to it yet, so you know it's going to be good because James produced it. So enjoy it. Have a great night. We'll see everybody. We'll finish off the show tomorrow night. Radioactive green box. I love it. Have a great night, everybody. Hugs for everybody. We'll see you on the next show now. Oh, wow.
On the shelves in Koreama town, the green box smiles, no frowns around. Soft and sweet with a glowing hue. It's the perfect snack for me and you. Radioactive cream box, oh what a treat. The core is still melting, but this bread is sweet. Fukushima's gift, just take a bite. Nothing's wrong here, it's alright, alright. Shano no aji, demo urishi. Oh shano no aji, demo urishi. Oh so sweet, but we won't regret. They say the cream is fresh, sourced from near. But what's in the air might not be clear. Take a bite, don't think too much. Locals cheer with every touch. Ooh, ooh, ooh. They say the cream is fresh, sourced from near. But what's in the air might not be clear. Take a bite, don't think too much. Locals cheer with every touch. Ooh, ooh. which you never dream. Safety's just a word they say, so let's enjoy it anyway. Filling the void with sugar and cream, a taste so rich you'd never dream. Safety's just a word they say, so let's enjoy it anyway. Radioactive cream box, so what a treat. The core's still melting, but this bread is sweet. Fukushima's gift, just take a bite. Nothing's wrong here, it's alright. Mina taberu, Mina let's celebrate. Beneath the surface, deeper truth. We celebrate while the core still fumes. But for now we'll close our eyes and take another bite, ignore the lies. Mojito kuchi, neo tojite. Mojito kuchi, neo tobre. Mojito kuchi, neo tobre. Another bite, ignore the lies.
Holy shit, that was crazy. That was fucking amazing. I'm going to give him his thumbs up. And we're going to close the poll. Have a great night. We'll see everybody on the next show. Get on over to James' site, folks, and give him a... That was amazing song, that one. That's another hit song right there. Have a great night, everybody.